For most plant people, the end of the warm weather growing season is a sad time. It means our outside annuals die, the garden's winding down, but I'm going to show you a few ways to snip a few of your annuals, things that kind of grow in the warm weather season, bring them inside to extend their life for one last show. You have found me in our sedum bed. I love sedum. It's in the succulent family and it comes up green in the spring and then it does this beautiful show of color late summer into fall. As you can see, our bee friends are here harvesting, getting ready for winter just like we are. And I'm going to harvest some of this sedum. What's great is because it is in that succulent family, it's got waxy leaves and stems. It lasts for a really long time. It doesn't degrade as fast as some other kind of garden plants might. And it also makes a beautiful dried flower kind of heading into winter. So this is definitely one I would make sure I get planted in my garden and come and harvest it before the really cold weather sets in and it freezes and the plant deteriorates. I think when people think flower arrangements in our home, we think flowers. But leafy plants have the ability to create just as much impact, especially something like this. It's what was one of our accent plants in our planters. We have the contrast of the green and the purple. This is going to create a really interesting arrangement, especially inside where we probably have some more neutral colors in our home. Something like this is going to definitely stand out. If you're lucky enough to have shade, a lot of times leafy plants thrive. And these sort of waxier leaves, for example, like in this variegated ginger plant here, will last inside in a vase for weeks, maybe even a month or so. The key is going to be changing out your water frequently. So a couple ways you can do this depending on your size vessel that we're going to cut these and put them into. You could just snip leaves and they can kind of create a nice little backdrop. Or since the growing season is kind of winding down, we get some really cool nights. These suckers are going to be done because they originate from tropical climates. So we can get down and take a whole stem here. And I've got a really tall vase. I'm going to show you how to put some of these in there. So you can harvest like whole stems or individual leaves. Next, we're going to harvest some parlor palms. So in things like this that are kind of bunchy and leafy, they're going to have less of an impact if I just snip individuals. So again, because our season's winding down, I don't mind taking a big old chunk out of these. So I'm going to harvest a big bulk of these and that will make a really nice backdrop and a flower arrangement. I'm also going to snip these flowers I have hanging here in my hanging basket. This is a type of begonia and it might not look like much, but their natural draping habit is going to be really cool sitting out the front of a vase, kind of draping over and kind of help create dimension in a flower arrangement. If you have any flower beds with annual flowers, things you have to plant annually every year, or things that you know are going to die back, maybe even some perennials, this would be a good time to harvest them, kind of heading into the cool weather season. So these are a chili chili. This is an ornamental pepper. We love these because they create tons of texture and interest in the garden. So I want to bring that inside. They are super duper hot. A lot of people will ask if you can eat them, and technically you can. They're a pepper, they are food, but they have tons of capsaicin in them, like really, really hot. I don't know what the Scoville scale is, but they are kind of out there. So I'm going to be really careful and not touch the part where I harvested. I'm going to focus on holding the stems. But how cool is that, especially headed into spooky season? I think these will make a really fun accent in a flower arrangement. I think annuals, plants that we kind of just plant seasonally and enjoy, are underrated for flower arrangements in our home. A lot of times because they have short stems. So for example, this mandevilla, which again originate from tropical climates, not much of a stem, but if I work with a smaller, shorter vessel, like maybe a mason jar, I have some fun crockery, this can still be a really pretty accent. So I'm going to harvest some of these flowers that normally we only see outside and bring them inside. If you have a perennial planting, you have the pleasure of your plants coming back every year. But you can also bring some of these inside. What I love about salvia is it blooms most of the summer. It's one of the few perennials that does that. Most perennials kind of have a blooming season and then they're done. So because these are on their, I don't know how many regular bloom season time, I'm going to cut a bunch of these stems. I'm sharing them with the bees and butterflies, but I'm going to cut some of these salvia stems and maybe even pick ones that haven't totally bloomed out yet so that they kind of come to maturity inside the home. So definitely don't forget about your perennials at the end of the season. They'll die back also, and you can get to enjoy one last little snap with them. I love grasses in a planting in a landscape. They do so much. So they absorb sound even in the winter. So like our grasses will probably let just kind of naturally hang out throughout the winter and then cut them back in the spring. But this time of year, in late summer, fall, they are going to seed. That's how they reproduce, but they are producing this gorgeous pink hue. And this is going to make a stunning accent for my plants. So because I have so many, I'm not as worried about just kind of whacking them off. Traditionally, if you're harvesting flowers or leaves or twigs off your plants, you want to kind of follow them down to the base because otherwise the plant will keep sending nutrition to that part of the stem. But since these guys are going to be headed out anyway for this season, I'm not going to be as careful and I get to put this gorgeous pink grass in my flower arrangement. For you plant people, this is going to hurt. I'm going to harvest this whole plant. And the reason is because it's going to fizzle really soon. So I know it's hard for most of us to hack away at a plant, but check this out. All I had to do was cut this down to the bottom. Even these marigolds, just like this, in a vase will be absolutely beautiful. And they're not going to make it much longer outside. So to me, I would rather whack the whole plant and enjoy it for weeks to come inside, as long as you change your water out. I do want to show you how to build on something like our marigold bundle here. Geraniums last a really long time inside, and they're super easy to harvest. So I'm going to pick 3 to 5 of these geraniums. I will work them in with my marigolds to create some nice contrast. So I'm going to stick a geranium here. Again, our eyeballs like odd multiples with flower arranging. So that's why I chose 5. And this one's not perfect, but I might adjust that one, pick a different one here in a little bit. I just wanted to show you how to put it together. So to me, that is a welcome invite to fall. We have some orange, we have the white for contrast. Reminds me a little bit of like spooky season. So it's definitely worth taking the time to kind of see what you might already have in your garden that you can bring inside. So as the growing season winds down, you might end up with some brown leaves in certain plants, or things might end up a little bit scraggly. But that doesn't mean the whole plant is lost, especially if we kind of get to cherry pick what we want to go in our flower arrangements. So in this instance, I have a peace lily bud here that's not quite opened. That's going to create a really fun impact in a large flower arrangement. I've got another one I'm going to grab here. And kind of have to be careful with peace lilies when they're flowering. They can kind of create a mess on your countertop. So I definitely want to pick ones that aren't as mature. So even this little green guy in a landscape with these is going to be pretty. It may not match exactly color wise, but texture wise, it's going to be pretty. I also think ferns are super underrated in flower arrangements. If you get enough of the stem, they can stand up nicely in the back of an arrangement, especially in something shorter, or they can create a nice little drape over the side. So I'm going to set these aside here, and then we're going to walk our way over to one of our other large planters here on our farm. So this plant is kind of common name in the corn plant, and it's in the Dracaena family. There's a lot of things in the Dracaena family. Maybe spikes are another one that you might recognize. So these make a really fun accent in a flower arrangement. And I'm also going to grab a couple of these larger leaves from this purple fella here. This is in the cordyline family. So personally, I would not mind a vase of our eyeballs like odd multiples when we're working with flower arrangements. So I'm going to pick 3 of our cordyline here. Show you how I would put something together really quick. I'm going to pick 3 of our corn plant. And I'm going to show you how to put this together. So I would have, it's like an every other sort of thing here. And if we put that in the right vessel, even just that on its own could be really interesting. And then I might take some of our fern and kind of fill out the back and the sides. And Farmer Bob, this is amaranth. Is that right? Or what is this? Irisine. Okay. And we'll probably let some irisine kind of hang over the sides. So that is like the building blocks of our flower arrangement. I'll show you guys how I put it all together soon.